Hello, everybody, and welcome to Norm, the Cheers podcast that isn't. That's Dookie, that's Dave. I am Mike from heaven. It's some crazy lighting, and it's making my hair white, and I'm just embracing it, baby. This is me if we ever do a podcast from the great beyond. All right, and speaking of eternity, we are doing a huge, monster-sized, 3 episode of Norm. It was the season finale of season 4, episodes 24, 25, 26. Just basically little mini Cheers movie. I don't think they ever did a 3-parter before or since, but they did it. I loved it. It's Kate Mulgrew. It's huge. It was a major cliffhanger for the summer of '86. It's hard to overstate what this season finale meant to people at the time. It was big. It's so big, we're not even going to be able to give Donna Summer her due. That was the pre-pod talk about the Queen of Disco, Dorchester's own, the legendary queen, Donna Summer, who, we're trying to figure out. Aerosmith has got to be the biggest act from Boston of all time. I mean, they've reigned 40 years. That deserves some credit. We're trying to decide if Donna Summer's number 2. There was a vote for New Edition, but we all kind of agreed Donna's above New Edition in their various incarnations. Some love given to the Cars, Rick Ocasek. I think you still have to go Donna Summer. As much as I love the Cars, they did some fantastic stuff musically. They had maybe a longer time in the sun. Like Donna Summer dominated the era she was in.
No question, she's on the Mount Rushmore. Like the top 4 New England music acts of all time.
Yeah,
she's easily in that spot.
Easily, yep.
Do we also agree that New Kids on the Block is a tier below New Edition?
Yes.
Mike.
Okay, here's the thing.
Oh boy.
It's hard for me to say because New Edition, I love New Edition. Don't get me wrong. I think there's an argument to be made. It depends on how you're categorizing New Edition, because Bobby Brown obviously had monster hits when he went out as a solo act. In terms of New Edition versus New Kids on the Block, I think you have to factor in the fact that New Edition really just had the one album. I mean, and New Kids on the Block, for whatever you thought of them, had multiple platinum albums, sold out arenas. I think.
But did they have as much of an impact on their genre? Because I think the members
on their genre more. I mean, they brought boy bands back from the dead. Like there hadn't been a boy band like that in forever. And then New Kids on the Block happened, and they spawned a 10, 20-year run. I mean, that's really going on till now with BTS that just was in with One Direction. Like that whole idea of 5 cute boys all singing and dancing together,
but
that had been gone.
New Edition. I stand by the statement that they ripped it off from New Edition.
Maybe. I mean, I don't. Like, an argument to elevate New Edition is never one that I want to discredit. Like, I love Mr. Telephone Man. I love My Prerogative. I love Belle Biv DeVoe. I don't know how you categorize it with the fact that New Kids on the Block it was bigger cultural impact at that time, where they really dominated. They dominated the world for a little stretch there. Like, if you lived during it, I mean, you could not escape that. You could escape New Edition as much as we dug them. Like, there was never a time where you were like, New Edition owns the world. So okay. I don't know how that counts. When I think of New Edition, I can think of like 2 songs that were really big hits.
Okay. Yeah.
As New Edition, like there were, whether you loved them or not, there were a shit ton of New Kids on the Block songs that were on the radio all the time.
How about we say that in terms of being in their own lanes and the impact on their own genres and subgenres, they're 2 tines on the same fork.
I'll go along with that.
Yeah, because I think It's not an uncommon story in American musical history for a black band to do something great, and then for a white band to do it not as well, but be much more successful at it.
Very true. Very true. I think they're probably somewhere around the same tier. It depends on how you judge it. But I do think Donna Summer's on another level.
Yeah, for sure.
Donna Summer's another level.
For sure.
Because I don't think, if you want to argue New Kids on the Block, maybe it dominated the zeitgeist in the same way Donna Summer did. They never had the musical impact that Donna Summer did. Like, I don't think there was ever a time, even the most fervent New Kids on the Block fans were like, these songs are great. It's even when you go now, it's like, boy, these guys are having fun, and it's fucking great that they're embracing this, and everyone's having a great time, and they're remembering being young. Like, if I hear Donna Summer songs, I sit there and go, this song is banging. This is great. Like, I'm loving this song. Like, you hear Hot Stuff again, and you're like, oh, fucking yes, come on.
Yeah.
What kind of sociopath doesn't love Hot Stuff?
All right. I can't stand in a bank line without doing the dance from the Full Monty.
Full Monty. Yeah. It's great.
That's a movie on my list to see.
Really
totally
fun.
Worth it.
Yeah. Really fun.
Also, before we complete, I know I'm sidetracking a little bit.
It's okay.
But me and the man at home are going down the list from worst to best. There's a ranking list of worst to best James Bond themes. And much to my shock, we haven't reached the top yet, but apparently they ranked the second worst James Bond theme, the Gladys Knight one from License to Kill. And
it's not good.
I know, but okay, here's the thing, right?
Yeah.
On its own, it would be fine if it weren't attached to a Bond film, because I hear it and I hear the instrumental backing track, and I'm like, this is a Luther Vandross song from its time. This is absolutely a Luther Vandross song. This is a standard 80s R&B situation. And it wouldn't be bad on its own, but when you attach it to a Bond film, not a good time.
Maybe. I'm willing to listen to it again and judge it on its own merits. It certainly wasn't one that ever stuck out. Amidst a bunch of, it's kind of surprising how many of those theme songs were legitimate hits. You're like, oh yeah, like especially the Roger Moore ones, which were forgettable movies, but there were a whole bunch of songs in there that were #1 hits. I
don't want to detract too much from, we got to get to the meat of this episode, but
we do.
One of these days I'll watch a James Bond film. Still haven't seen one.
Ever? Never? Not one?
No.
Did we know this? Oh my God.
Are you okay?
Wow. No, I mean, that's just such a gigantic pop culture void.
Know all the spoofs, but I've never seen a single
one. But that's kind of what I mean. It's like to have seen the spoofs and to not see what it's based on. Wow. I mean, which is kind of what we talked about a little bit last week with Airplane and those spoof movies. Yeah. Like as much as you might be able to enjoy them on their own merit to some degree, there's always a level missing if you don't know what they're spoofing.
I don't know. It's just, I have to go back and see the cinematic record of my alleged father, Sean Connery, at some point.
Those movies have a lot of fun parts and a lot of parts that have aged really poorly.
Yeah.
Whew.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like they make the Roger Moore James Bond movies look like they were made by Gloria Steinem.
Yeah.
I mean, the Connery ones were rough.
Yeah, Roger Moore looks like he runs the HR department compared to Connery.
Because the thing with the Roger Moore ones was, look, it's a little weird that he keeps having this much sex because he can't do any of the stunts. But everyone looks like they're into it, whether they should have been into it or not. There's at least that saving grace. The Sean Connery one is like, you're only not into it because I haven't convinced you yet.
Oh my God. Oh
yeah.
My God. He is a blunt instrument of a man.
Oh my God.
Those Connery ones, and yet I can't stop watching them completely. And The stuff that works in them is so campy and fun and funny that it's hard to stop watching them completely. But there are definitely stretches where you have to cover your eyes and pretend it's not happening.
Chagrin intensifies. Oh my God.
Oh, so many bales of hay taking the fall of so many women who did not want to be in the hay.
Oh, man.
Oh, yeah. I would encourage, I think if you're going to start the Bond series, I really think Casino Royale is probably a pretty good place to start.
Okay.
Casino Royale is a terrific Bond. And then skip Quantum of Solace completely.
Okay.
Go to Skyfall. Those are the two best Daniel Craig ones. And they're great. And you probably don't need the other three. Two of them are bad and one is mediocre. Those two, though, are great and super fun. And then it's worth checking out a couple of the higher camp Roger Moore ones, because they're so 80s and kitschy and fun. And they give you a great Cold War after we felt like we were winning the Cold War vibe. And then you do a Connery. Then you're ready for Dr. No. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and you jump in and you do the granddaddies. You do Dr. No and you do Goldfinger. Okay. And they're which have huge problems but are also super fun. Huge problems, also super fun.
So I have to build my way to the problematic content.
Okay. And then if you want to do a TED Talk, You Only Live Twice.
Okay.
And that's how I think I would sum up the experience. Dave, do you have any thoughts? Any Lazenby or Dalton to add to this?
No, I would watch a late Dalton just if you want to watch somebody with a bad back pretend like they can run fast. It's pretty entertaining.
Yeah. Poor Dalton. Like, if Roger Moore had quit when he should have quit, Timothy Dalton could have done a couple of real great Bonds.
I'm sorry, not Timothy Dalton. I'm thinking Pierce Brosnan.
The
late Brosnan ones where he can't move are...
Honestly, I would say that about...
silly.
Yeah. I would say that about... I almost forget Brosnan even did it, which is crazy because he did 4 or 5.
It's all in that sort of very forgettable kind of 90s action movie cookie cutter kind of... they don't. I can't even separate them out, honestly.
Maybe it's because I was a kid when those came out that I only picture Pierce Brosnan as Bond.
Yeah, no, it's like a Saturday Night Live cast. It's the Bond that you knew in junior high and high school. Mm-hmm. That's your Bond. Mm-hmm. Like, as much as I think the Daniel Craig ones are far superior, Roger Moore is my Bond. He's my Bond. Yep.
Fair enough.
There you go. Yeah, and Pierce. You can watch GoldenEye and Tomorrow Never Dies. Tomorrow Never Dies is worth watching if only because there's an actual like kick-ass female co-lead in it with Michelle Yeoh, which they hadn't done before. And that was an interesting new take on the franchise, and I don't think it got enough credit. And then the poor guy just couldn't do anymore after that one. He just couldn't do it. He couldn't do it. Like, he couldn't do the physicality of it anymore. They couldn't do and they tried, and it still felt weird. Like, I can't even tell you how wildly creepy watching him and Denise Richards is. In that. It's one of the worst Bond movies ever made. I don't even remember the title of it, but I remember her name was Dr. Christmas Snow, and it was so bad. Yeah. Terrible.
Idris Elba should have been.
The World Is Not Enough. Yeah. Idris Elba. Yeah. But, I would love to see Idris Elba get a shot at it, but I'm kind of afraid it's going to be the Timothy Dalton and Roger Moore issue where a guy who could have just crushed it is getting it 10 years later than he should have. And suddenly it's like you might get one, maybe 2 movies where you're going, okay. And then a third movie where you're like, how long have you been Bond? 30 years?
Yeah.
Because Idris he's not a young guy, right?
No, not now.
Yeah, no.
And
I'm going to look it up, and he's probably still going to be younger than me. But I mean, all right, we've got 3 episodes of Cheers to get.
We do.
All right. Wow. That was not what we were supposed to open this with. Oh my God. 3 goddamn episodes. Oh my. And we were listing off what order to watch Bond movies in. All right.
It's like we scripted the first 15 plays and then the headsets went out.
Oh, Jesus Christ. And none of this. And you know, the saving grace, I think subliminally, I'm just doing this so there isn't time at the end to talk about the Celtics at all. I think there's a part of us that is all just going, you know, if we spend more time on Donna Summer, that's less time on the Celtics. And that feels like a saving grace right now.
Little bit.
All right, let's talk Cheers. Dave, when these 3 episodes debuted on the world, what was happening?
Well, this debuted over the first 3 weeks of May 1986.
Woo, sweeps.
And they finished top. I think each one is finishing top 4, top 5. The show is really kind of hitting its stride. Meanwhile, and we talked a little bit a few weeks ago about how every so often Cheers hits a cultural reference that's still relevant today. And I was looking at some things that happened in May of 1986, and lo and behold, what film was released on May 16th, 1986, that's still relevant to us today in 2022? It's, of course, the Tom Cruise literal vehicle, Top Gun.
Wow.
Top Gun.
Top Gun comes out and immediately grosses $200 million over the course of its theatrical run.
Holy crap.
Or $175 million. Massive hit. Lesser known, coming out in May of 1986, but still making a somewhat respectable $4.5 million. I was shocked to find out. A little film Mike and I and Tookie are familiar with called No Retreat, No Surrender was also released.
Yes!
In 1986.
Fuck that movie.
Yes. Heck
Those
yeah.
are perhaps the 2 polls of cinematic achievement in May of 1986.
Beautiful time. Mike is going to go sage his house and cleanse it of the spirit of that film.
I'm going to have to burn it. I'm going to have to burn it down.
I had no idea that movie did that well.
There was a time where if you put out any movie with a white guy doing martial arts, you were going to make a few $1 million. If you could keep the budget down, you were guaranteed profit.
Bless you.
American Ninja, anybody?
I mean, this movie does better than 3 Men and a Cradle, which is a sequel to 3 Men and a Baby, I assume.
Oh.
No. 3 Men and a Little Lady is the sequel to 3 Men and a Baby. 3 Men and a Cradle was the original French movie that 3 Men and a Baby was based on.
Okay, that explains a lot then.
Yes.
Is this a Dewey or hearing?
I imagine. No, that is my dog. That is my May.
That's a May
Yep.
hearing.
That's my May. I imagine 3 Men and a Baby, because that came out in 86, yes?
I believe so.
I imagine they were,
yeah.
It probably was released in some smaller theaters in the U.S. as saying like, oh, here's the movie that this monster hit is based on.
Yeah.
That's exactly 3 Men and a Little Lady didn't come out for a couple of years.
I stand corrected. Nonetheless, that film was released and we can never take that away from it.
I'm sorry. I didn't mean to bury you on that, Dave. We'll be spending 3 more minutes on how Dave was wrong. I apologize. I'm sorry.
Let the record reflect. I want everything correct.
All right. I don't know. Should we just do the cold opens, like kind of all 3 cold opens as a group, or how do you want to tackle the cold opens, Tookie? Because I was viewing this as just talking about the whole thing as one mega episode.
Yeah.
So I don't know how that will affect the cold open recaps.
I did separate them, but I can, explain them all. They essentially take place on 3 different-ish days.
Yep.
So cold open number 1, Woody is arm wrestling this big Mike Ditka looking person, and who beats him. And he says, "Oh boy, that's the 3rd time you beat me, guy named Mike. Guess I owe you another beer." And he says, "Oh, that's okay. I got to run. I'll take a rain check on that one." And Carla's like, "Oh, you lost again, huh?" And Woody's like, "Yeah, I don't know what's the matter with me. Seems like that guy just has my number or something." And she says, "Well, forget about it. Next time challenge him to Italian arm wrestling. And Woody's like, well, I never tried that. So Carla demonstrates by doing like this weird grip on him holding it. And then she lets go and Woody bonks himself in the head. And he's like, hey, I beat Carla. Wow, I'm not even Italian. Roll credits. So.
I can't even tell you how many hurt feelings were caused by this cold open. Because every kid who saw it tried it with a friend who had not seen it.
Oh, wow.
And Woody got hit in the forehead.
Yeah.
But most of the time when you do this, you are getting it straight in the nose if you actually trick somebody. Oof. And it's not pleasant.
Oof. Ouch. Mm-hmm. Ouch.
Yeah, this cold open should be banned.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. It should be, or should it come with one of those warnings like you do on Disney Plus for the Tom and Jerry?
Yeah, or at least like a WWE warning where it's like professionals don't try this at home.
Yeah. Cold open number 2. Sam storms into the bar. Sorry I'm late. Bet you can't guess who I just met at Janet's house last night. And Diane's like, well, Sam, please, this is getting out of hand. In the month that you've been dating, the lovely Counselor Eldridge has done nothing but drop names. You'd think you'd never seen a celebrity before. Spare me your stargazing. And Gary Hart walks into the bar, and everybody's like, "Hey, Gary Hart." And he goes up to Sam at the bar and says, "Sam, you left your coat in my car last night." And Sam says, "Oh, that's sweet of you to bring it by. Thank you. It's the least." And he says, "It's the least I could do for a Trivial Pursuit partner. Thanks for your help with those sports questions." Sam's like, that's my strong point. Thank you for helping me with everything else. And Gary says, that's my strong point. And Norm flags him out and says, "Gary, let's say you park it down here and I buy you a brewski." And Gary Hart says, "No, I'll take a rain check." Norm says, "In that case, you can buy me one." Just kidding, sort of. And Gary says, "Sam, I better run." And then Diane enters and spots him. She's like, "Oh my God, it's Gary Hart. Did you see that? It's Senator Gary Hart. You could have been president. Gary Hart still could be president. Gary Hart." And she catches herself and says, "I was just showing him how silly it looks when you do that. Please don't do that again." Roll credits. A weird one. Very shoehorned.
It's very 80s. I mean, this is my 80s moment of the week by far, is Gary Hart in terms of national figure. Yeah, it's like, it makes so little sense now, but if you live through it, Gary Hart, even before his scandal, was this weirdly national major figure because there was like a Kennedy vibe to him. He ran in 84 for the presidential nomination, and like basically a lot of people thought he was a little too young, but he had this Kennedy vibe of, all right, it seemed like he was going to be a transformative national figure, and he was the front runner in 88. And then at a time where just the whiff of scandal could bring you down, a girl was leaving his house one night and there was a picture of him on a boat with her. The affair was never proven, never acknowledged, but just that scandal enough it took him out, and his political career was dead.
Wow, wow, what a standard to be held to, a morality standard.
Right? Yeah.
Was probably, or at least according to an article in The Atlantic from 2018, probably set up by Lee Atwater.
Yeah.
Lee Atwater confessed to on his deathbed to this being an entirely set up for the photograph to leak of him. And
wow.
Yeah.
Wild stuff.
Oof.
Lee Atwater was a gigantic scumbag who makes Karl Rove look like Mother Teresa. Lee Atwater was such a piece of shit to the day he died.
Damn.
To the point where he was trying to pretend he was no longer a piece of shit to the day he died. And his friends were still like, he's still a piece of shit. Like, don't fall for this. He's still a giant piece of shit. Yeah, he tried to do, like when he knew he was dying, he tried to do this apology tour. And people were still like, dude, you fucking sucked. And now you're dying. And you dying doesn't mean that you didn't suck. Yeah, Lee Atwater was the dirtiest player in the game.
Jeez.
Yep. Ric Flair got it from Lee Atwater.
Ooh, spicy words.
The template.
Yeah.
All right. Third cold open. So it's a sneaky recap a sneaky way to recap the past two. So it's just we enter the bar and Woody is leaving a voicemail, and he says, so Norm asks Woody, "Oh, you leaving another recorded message for the folks?" And he's like, "Yeah, it's cheaper than a phone call." So he goes, "Hi, folks. This is your son Woody Boyd. Enough about me. Things have been getting really crazy around Cheers. I remember I told you Sam was going out with this real pretty politician lady named Janet Eldridge. Things are going hot and heavy, and Miss Chambers quit. And I think this stuff between Sam and Miss Eldridge finally got to her. Anyway, she says she's never coming back here again. Gee, I miss her. Well, that's it. Bye." And Norm's like, Woody says, "Well, all right, let's hear how it sounds." Rewinds, plays again. And it's a recording of Winston Churchill.
Mm-hmm. We shall fight on the beaches.
Yeah. And Woody says, "Oh, I guess it's true. You listen to the sound of your own voice. It always sounds different." Roll credits.
Mm-hmm. There you go. Fun little cold open. Mm-hmm. I liked all the cold opens this week. I thought they were all fun. I liked everything about these episodes. Not everything. There's
right.
In these episodes. But I did love these episodes. Okay. A couple of minor B and C stories. There's Frasier in sort of a B story, but it's kind of intertwined with the A story, so I almost don't even think of it as a separate story. Mm-hmm. But it's 1 year since Diane left him at the altar, and he is just saying, "I'm going to spew bile and venom and let it all out of me, so that because it's very healthy," and is still clearly desperately in love with Diane. Yeah, it's still kind of funny the way it's impressive how Kelsey Grammer can play this and still make him a sympathetic character, because it shouldn't be. And I still enjoy Frasier. And he's there, and he is going to assist Diane in helping this candidate run against Janet, who we will talk about more in a bit. And he is there, and that is all funny. And you see how desperately in love with Diane Frasier still is. There's a weird little horny story involving Norm and Cliff, where Norm's sister-in-law is staying at the house and is apparently always in a state of undress and showing herself to Norm, and Norm is acting like this girl is just, oh man, it's like living in a Cinemax movie. It's really crazy. And Cliff is hearing about this and is getting all worked up and wants to go over to the house and cannot help myself. And it's some interesting interplay between Norm and Cliff. I did enjoy it, even as weird as it was. And as much as I don't enjoy those two getting horny, it was still enjoyable and funny, I thought.
Question though.
Yeah.
Yes.
Is a horny relative / in-law a meme of the time? Like, does it lean closer to trope or meme?
It didn't strike me that way. Yeah. Okay. There's something of a timeless trope to it, I guess. I mean, it's very soap opera-y. Mm-hmm. Very British Restoration comedy. So I don't really think of it as a meme of the time. I think of it as, all right, well, this happens sometimes.
Okay.
It feels like it's in part like a way to like play the generation card without like having the creepiness of like a May-December kind of thing. Like you get like a younger in-law that behaves in a way that seems different to an older relative, but not so much older that it's Humbert or anything.
Got it. Yeah. I'm wondering like if a horny relative was just a meme or not, but
yeah, I think that's where I'd put it. I think it's a timeless trope.
Yeah.
That comes that has happened before, happened then, happened since. Yep. The A story. Hello, Admiral Janeway. Kate Mulgrew, a guest star par excellence, just really wonderful. She's coming in. She's playing Janet, the councilwoman, who is somehow like doing a little meet and greet in the bar and meeting everybody. Sam immediately is taken with her. Diane does not like her because, she's a conservative who does these things. And somehow, by the way, here's an 80s thing. It's a conservative who is pro public transportation and is going to make sure it's the best in the state.
Hey.
Well, that's quite a conservative platform there. All right, sir. It was a different time.
Wow. Nostalgia is a toxic impulse, but I was like, man, put me back in the Republican Party, please.
Whew, man. It was something else. All right. So Sam starts flirting with her. It looks like nothing is going to happen in there. And then she gives him her number, of course. And they are dating, and Diane does not like it. And she's supporting Jim Fleener, Alf's stepdad, who is running for city council opposite him before he has a brief run running the coffee house and friends and then smoking crack.
What?
That fella has an interesting life. Oh, yeah. Did you not hear about that?
Max
No.
Wright, really?
That became this big Inquirer story. Yeah, Max Wright, supposedly. And honestly, God, I shouldn't even say it because I'm not positive it's true. But there was this huge Inquirer spread about that's why he lost his job on Friends was because he got smoking crack.
Wow.
Yeah, hang on. Let me look this up because I don't want to say it without it being appropriate. Hang on.
Alleged.
Allegedly. He was
What?
Willie Tanner, of course.
What?
He played Starveling in that 1999 Midsummer Night's Dream with Kevin Kline.
Yep. Hang on.
Bizarre.
I don't know. Enough. I don't know. I don't want to read it all. Hang on. But that was. But it did happen in the Inquirer. So I'm not saying he did it. I'm saying the Inquirer said he did it. Anyway, moving on.
Wow.
Yeah. So Frazier joins the campaign to run against Janet and get him elected. Does not win. Janet is just over the moon with Sam. Diane is convinced that he's just a political prop because he's a sports star and he is handsome. And in this town, it doesn't hurt that he's Irish. She goes into the office. She accuses her of doing that. She says at first, yes, that was what I was thinking. But now the campaign is over and I am still with him because he really means a lot to me. And it's a beautiful moment of Kate Mulgrew showing you why she's Kate Mulgrew, just saying, this is how I feel about Sam. And this is why he's special to me. And all of these things. And I just want to go on the record early as saying, I want Sam and Janet together.
Yeah.
I like them together. They're a great couple. I think they meshed together well. I think she was all the things that he liked about Diane without all the negative baggage that he mistook for chemistry. And I just want to say that was the healthy relationship here for the two of them. Even though in 6 weeks you don't need to decide if you're getting married or not. That's kind of crazy.
I agree. Although I think like one of the things that's brilliant about Kate Mulgrew's performance is I'm never entirely certain if she's being honest or being manipulative. And I think it's entirely intentional.
Yeah.
Like there's a part of me that would not be surprised if she has designs on some sort of higher office and then like she's partially using Sam. Like it's everything is so gray and muddy and unconcrete with her. And yet at the same time, I desperately want to believe her because she's so convincing. It's a really spectacular performance, and I'm so glad they give her plenty of space to do what she does in these 3 episodes. It's really outstanding.
So a couple of interesting thoughts on that. I do totally get what you're saying because she is presented and plays a smooth politician so well that you're immediately a little suspicious. But I believe her when she's saying the campaign's over. And you know what? This very minor relief pitching sports star from this corner of Boston is not going to help me get to a next office. I mean, really, maybe if she's running for mayor, I guess. But if she's got designs on a higher office, dating Joe Sambito is not going to get you there. That's all I'm saying. You're not going to go like, I don't know how I feel about this. And, oh, hang on. Vaughn Eshelman's girlfriend is here. I'm voting for him.
I will say, go ahead.
Well, just in that sense, and maybe I'm just a sap, I kind of took that as being a bit more genuine, where she's saying, I did it. I thought it would help me with city council, and I thought he was a good-looking guy. And now I really like him. And I don't think there would be any point in her going through everything else that she goes through if she wasn't really into Sam alone.
I can't always tell, and that's one of the things I genuinely love about these 3 episodes. Is like I want to believe it, but I don't always trust it.
Yeah. Well, that's why I got that money from that email, Prince, and you didn't, Dave.
Oh, alas.
I'm a trusting soul. Tookie, what were you going to say?
Well, I was going to say that Diane's noting, it doesn't hurt that in this town Sam is Irish. That was a big Boston moment of this episode for me. Just the fact that Irish ethnicity, nationality plays a big role in someone's viability as a public office holder.
Yeah. Yeah, and that could also be argued as an 80s moment where Irish really was enough to sway a voting ballot in a way that it probably would not be any longer. Not. I mean, Boston is not without its issues, but it's become a much more diverse city.
Yeah.
Yep.
I say this as a person with the last name Kavanaugh.
So anyway, Diane. So Janet encourages Sam to let Diane go because, and again, maybe I'm just a sucker, but I don't think Janet's completely out of line here, where Diane is basically saying, I don't trust you and I'm going to spoil your relationship and I'm going to ruin this. And Janet's sitting here going, hey, I need to get this woman out of here. Like, this woman is trying to spoil all my happiness. And I still don't think it's necessarily untrue that she doesn't belong in this place. So what the fuck, Sam? Sam is going to fire her. Diane overhears this. I enjoyed both moments of Shelley Long having to hide and overhear everything and playing that quite well. Diane comes in with many letters to resign from her job. Then she retracts it. She makes him fire him. He does. She says, I quit. It was a funny scene. Everything well played. She does quit. She then gets a job at a supermarket, which people make fun of, which fuck you.
Yeah.
A good job is a good job, and there's nothing to be judged there. She comes back. They have another press conference. Janet is kind of pressing Sam to say, what's our future together? Which is my big Janet issue. It's like, we're searching. But yeah, so we're talking about getting married already. Diane is at the press conference. They start making faces at each other. I love when Ted Danson's making faces. He does good stuff. She squirts a squirt gun at him. Yeah, she squirts a squirt gun at him. Press conference is over. Janet is understandably upset and telling Sam, you need to make a decision here. You're trying to play this both ways. You want to have all your options open to you, and you can't do it that way anymore. It's time to grow up.
That was a fucking truth bomb. I was like, that was one of the things that like tilted the scales for me, like back in favor of Kate Mulgrew. I was like, yeah, this character's capable of being extraordinarily honest in a moment of real emotional need. I loved that so much.
The stakes were there.
Absolutely.
And then Sam is in a moment of introspection and going, I'm pushing 40 and what do I have to show for it? And part of me is like, well, you got a pension and a thriving business. That's not the worst thing in the world, but I do understand what you're saying. And they start closing up for the night. He's got his tie off. He picks up the phone. He calls someone and proposes. And let's head into summer. And that's how a cliffhanger used to be done, by God. No one knew who he had proposed to, even though we all knew he was proposing to. But still, it was left as a cliffhanger, and it was really fun. I liked the stakes of all these episodes. I liked how well structured they were. I thought there were a ton of funny jokes in them. There's some uncomfortable stuff because it's the 80s, and we can mention that. The part where Frasier is convincing Jim not to ask out Diane because of the sex change operation. Woo! Woof. I mean, and part of me wants to at least say, well, at least Jim called her brave, I guess.
Yeah.
But yeah, like that was,
woof.
Yeah, that it wasn't great.
That's the progressive candidate, by the way.
Yeah.
I know. Yeah. And by the way, so a couple of nitpicks before we talk about this episode overall. And one major one is when they're asking him about his relationships, what was your most serious relationship? Hey, how about your ex-wife?
Yes,
like sometimes we just pretend that never happened. Like he was married. Why is Diane the most important relationship? He was married. There's some proof you can do it. You did it. Anyway.
There's some selective amnesia amongst the Cheers writing room, I feel like sometimes.
Yeah. All right. What'd you think of these episodes?
Solid effort. I mean, I say that as like they're great episodes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. This isn't me AV clubbing it.
Yeah. No, I really, really loved what they did here. You could tell they had been building to these episodes for a while, and they felt like they had a lot of great material that deserved the room that they used here, that needed 3 episodes. It didn't feel flabby. it all felt earned and deserved and fun and interesting and well acted, and like it really built to a point. It needed that time to get to that resolution. It really felt like just a well structured season finale.
Yeah, uh, and so well. It was so nice to see, as I said, like the writing for Kate Mulgrew's character was so
Mm-hmm.
strong that her action allowed us to see everything, all the flaws inside of Diane and Sam and Frasier to a lesser extent. We see like how sort of stuck and broken they are because she's pretty functional.
Mm-hmm.
She's not a prop. Like she's got her own. She's moving through life and doing her own thing, and she's got needs and desires, and she's trying to meet them. And as a result of that, we see like how lost these three kind of are within each other, and it's really really well done in that sense. Like she doesn't feel extraneous at all to the story.
Yeah, yeah.
Is it?
And I don't know if it's inappropriate for me to say this, but I find Kate Mulgrew at this era of her career absolutely stunning. Like she walks in a room and I do a double take. I'm like, geez, wow, Kate Mulgrew. Woo.
Is it safe to say, though, as someone who doesn't know her I've only ever heard of her body of work, that she's got a lot of big Hepburn energy?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Oh yeah, she did a one-woman show where she played Kate Hepburn. Yeah.
Oh,
Okay.
really?
Yep. Yeah, where finally she gave into it, where people are like, "Oh, you've got such a Hepburn energy," and finally she's like, "All right, I can make a lot of money doing a touring one-woman show as Katharine Hepburn," and she did, and God bless her.
Yeah.
I mean, although she had an interesting career where it felt like everyone knew she was talented and really attractive, and everyone kind of thought something big was going to happen. And it was like that time where if you didn't become a movie star and there just weren't a ton of great parts for women, you needed a TV show to hit, which was a tough gamble.
Mhm.
You needed one of the 12 pilots that you were auditioning for. You needed to get one of them, and then that one needed to get picked up, and then that one needed to last for 3 seasons, and it was hard. And it wasn't until she finally entered the Star Trek universe on the UPN network, but in playing Admiral Janeway, where it was like, all right, here's some security. And this is how people are going to know me, and I'm always going to be able to be this person for the rest of my life if I need to. And that's some stability. And yeah. And it was, I think she got that at the right point in her career, too, where she had been plugging away at stuff long enough that sometimes when you get something that's going to stick with you for the rest of your life, like a Star Trek or Star Wars part, you can look at it negatively and you go like, oh God, I've been cursed and everyone thinks of me as this. But if you get it at a certain point in your life where you go, whoo, I got this for the rest of my life. Thank God.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. I think Shatner really tried to break out of Kirkdom at a certain point.
He did for a long stretch. Well, he got Kirk when he was in his 20s still, right? Yeah. I mean, because he just turned 90 and he got Star Trek in the mid 60s. Yeah. So, I mean, yeah, you're talking about somewhere around the time where he's like, in his late 20s, early 30s, and you're just starting to break and he's doing some roles and he thinks he's going to be a huge star. And then he's Kirk for the rest of his life. And he probably didn't like it. And he's like, don't forget TJ Hooker. And we all want to forget TJ Hooker. And he did some other stuff, but ultimately he is Captain Kirk. Mm-hmm. And the same thing with Leonard Nimoy, who was a serious dramatic actor who did other stuff, but he was Spock for the rest of his life. And he got that at a young enough point where he was resentful for it for a while before he embraced it later on in his life.
Spock, or Leonard Nimoy, I should say. Oops, no disrespect. Leonard Nimoy, also legendary Boston export?
Absolutely.
Yes.
Okay.
West End boy. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. And he was very proud of that. And his son, did something about his Boston roots not that long ago. And I wish I remembered what it was. But if you're ever just kind of Googling Leonard Nimoy and his son in Boston, something popped up where they were, I don't know if it was a documentary or if it was just an article about his Boston roots. But Leonard Nimoy is from Boston and very proud of it.
Yeah, it was an article in the Globe. I remember it now.
Okay.
He's talking about his sort of like his dad kind of coming to grips with his sort of legacy and that character and reconciling with his family. He apparently was kind of distant for a long time. Yeah, it was an interesting article.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, look that up. It was a fun read.
Mm.
Fun read. But yeah, this is just such a fun little stretch of episodes where I felt like these characters went on a journey they're not normally allowed to go on. Starting with dating the lookalikes in the beginning and realizing that they're not over each other and still being very competitive. And then finally getting to this point where Diane accepts that she is still into Sam, and Sam at the end, we find out the next season, is still completely in love with Diane and can't let go of each other. Yeah. There are no spoilers in the Norm podcast. There are no spoilers, sorry. Anything that happened over 30 years ago is on you to learn.
Well, I just learned that Sheena Easton is white.
Yeah, you typed that. Yeah, I'm sorry.
Congratulations.
Thank you. But blame my family. They gaslit me into believing, like, because we had cassettes of hers at the house and they didn't have like the cover art or anything. And I never questioned it. And it wasn't until today that I Googled her just on a whim. My whole sense of self is shattered.
Yeah, if you were our age, like you remember her appearing on Solid Gold and you heard the accent and you knew, you knew who she was.
Yeah, I didn't know.
Yeah.
I didn't know. I did not know. It's the Tina Marie paradox, as I call it, or the Bobby Caldwell conundrum, as my friend Sean Rosa. No.
It's so true. It's the Reggie Cleveland issue.
I don't know who that is, but I feel like I would be hurt.
Yeah, he's a baseball player that was somehow shockingly white,
like Babe Ruth.
Yeah, well, but Babe Ruth, you don't hear Babe Ruth and you go like, oh, all right, I can picture him right now. I mean, if you had not known who Babe Ruth was before, maybe it's not okay to say, but if you hear there was a guy named Reggie Cleveland, do you picture Dave?
No.
Do you picture me? You do not.
I don't. No. I don't.
You do not.
But we have to acknowledge Dominican All-Star Babe Ruth.
That is some DNA testing. Oh, I would love to see Mr. Gates get on that.
Yeah,
please. That is one I would love to watch. I feel like, come on, Ruth family, get on board with this. Let's learn a little bit, shall we?
Mm-hmm.
All right, we got some categories to get through. I did my 80s thing of the week, which was Gary Hart, the ultimate 80s thing in so many different ways. He represents very much the 80s. Dave, your 80s thing.
I'll go with, in that same episode, the discussion of Trivial Pursuit, a board game which I feel kind of appeared in the 80s, peaked in the 80s, sputtered through the 90s, and is now completely irrelevant, thanks to the internet.
How dare you? How dare you? Close your feed now. Oh. I still love Trivial Pursuit. It is fantastic. It is for people who possess knowledge, not those who look it up. Trivial Pursuit is still a gentleman's game.
I mean, I think it's found its rightful niche now as cards you find in a diner to kill time until your food gets there. I don't think it needs to be a 3-hour engagement of trivia.
Okay, well, that's Dave's opinion. Tookie, would you like to say something worth hearing?
Wow. Woof.
Dave knows what he did. Dave knows. He saw it hurting me, and he's like, "What if I hit harder? What if I wound up a little bit more? What if I did that? What if I removed some of the padding?"
All right.
Do
we have time for my 80? Oh, I'm gonna try and make them quick.
Okay.
Because I spotted a lot. Episode 1, all the fluffy hair. So much fluffy hair in that episode. In the opening scene of scene 1 with the lookalike dates, Diane's like, well, so-and-so has a big screen TV. And Sam's like, well, my date has a satellite dish. So that being bragging rights. In-person soliciting for someone running for city council. Like rather than, the robocalls of today, internet campaigns and such. Episode 2, the sex change. Oh God. Diane's big old bow on her outfit, paying $312 for a dress. I didn't get a chance to run it through the inflation calculator, but that's not a cheap dress. Yeah. Diane saying,
That's at least $1,000 dress right now,
yeah.
I think.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Diane doing the why I oughta, because like that was still sort of relevant to reference at that point, 1950s domestic violence. Broderick Crawford, who the heck is someone? Who the heck? I don't know who that is. Broderick Crawford, I think Cliff.
He's not 80s, but referencing him was very 80s.
Okay.
Yes.
Noted.
Dave, would you like to expound on who Broderick Crawford it was?
I had actually forgotten to look him up because that was a name I wasn't familiar with. So I can tell you he died right before this episode premiered. But he was a famous tough guy actor in the through the 40s and 50s.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay. So the idea still that service industry jobs were menial and beneath people, when the classism, we don't like that. We don't do that this day and age. It's not just Carla describing a woman as that, but just that trope of being quote unquote an airhead with casabas. The bimbodom of the female gender back then. Frasier offering Diane that receptionist job and describing his receptionist essentially as a blue-haired old lady. So old ladies with blue hair, I feel like either was like a meme or a trope of some sort from back then. The whole "you can't fire me, I quit" back and forth. Definitely a tropey thing. And then at the end scene, there was a Kenny Loggins looking mofo at the bar sitting. He just had like the head of hair and the beard, and I was like, wow, you are of the time. Episode 3.
No disrespect to Kenny.
No disrespect to Kenny, but like the big Ken doll haircut with the bushy beard, Kenny Loggins.
All right. I'm going to ask if you feel strongly about any more of your 80s things, as we now have 8 more minutes to get through everything else.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. Leaving a recorded message being cheaper than a long distance call. And Winston Churchill? Why?
Wait a minute. Churchill is 80s?
Yeah, because as a joke, as a punchline. I feel like there's a very 80s punchline.
If we had more time, I'd push back on this one. Okay, go ahead.
All that camera equipment in the bar. I mean, talk about all the outdated tech. Caring about a woman's marital status when she's running for office is not it's finally been called out. We don't do it as much because they focused real hard on that. The idea that Boston Transit can be fixed and the casual attitude of, even if it is a squirt gun, a gun in a bar, public setting.
In a press conference with a
I mean, yeah. So those are my 80s moments.
Okay. Your joke of the week, Tookie.
Joke of, oh man, I actually laughed at some of episode 1, a word over here for heart, a word over here, heartthrob. Carlin, Cliff runs over. Episode 2, what's going down, Mr. Peterson? My cheeks on this bar stool. And episode 3, a rare Trevor joke when Woody is describing this girl in his apartment and then comes to the realization like he should go talk to her.
Very good Woody sequence.
Yeah.
Dave, your joke of the week.
I will also give it to Woody, which is I think in the 3rd episode, when they're talking about setting up the press conference in the bar. Woody's explaining it to Diane, who's just stopped in, and she says, "Press conference at a bar, isn't that a little unorthodox?" And he says, "No, I think it's open to all faiths."
Nice. I had a couple in the 1st episode. Yes, there's that rumor is in the air. He's putting on his cologne back when there was air. I enjoyed that very much, the writing and the delivery. Beer, Mr. Peterson? Okay, but be sure to stop me at 1. No, I'll make that 1:30. Mm-hmm. Enjoyed. And then the visual joke of Diane doing her gigantic goodbye, "You'll never see me again," and then having to reach in and get her coat. I loved. I thought that was so well played. Really, really enjoyed that. Another moment for Shelley Long to be physical and doing it beautifully. All right, Tookie, how white was this week's episode?
Oh my God, we don't have enough time. But finally, I think there was such a dip in all of the extras of color because they were saving that budget for these 3 episodes. We had a couple repeat people, but a huge amount of people of color. I mean, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. Whew. 8, 9, 33 people of color I spotted as across all. So that's 11 per episode.
Nice.
An average. Yeah.
That's not bad. It did feel that way this week. Yeah.
Yeah. Just one episode of Good Times.
I mean, that's where the budget went, and I'm not mad at it.
Nope. Well spent.
Yeah.
Well spent. And we are now hurtling towards our final season of Shelley Long and Diane. And it's all resolutions all the time. Very much looking forward to it. Yeah, this is how you close out a season, I think. This is really well done. Sets up everyone's path well for the future. Cliff came out hardcore incel this week. Wildly uncomfortable, but well played.
Buck? Killed me.
Oh, that hurt.
Yeah, the Ratzenberger deliveries really did get me each time. Man, what do you say we go over to your house and watch some tube? Yeah, just great.
I also just want to shine a brief light on the Frasier Diane little scene after the awful sex change scene. Right after that, they have a gorgeous 4-minute scene where Frasier confesses his love for Diane, and she acknowledges it, and it's graceful and lovely, and it's just beautiful, just a beautiful little scene.
The delivery after, is there anything I can do for you? Marry me, bear my children, let me die in your arms. Let me die in your arms. It's great.
It's so good.
So lovely. So lovely. I want best for Frasier.
And I was thinking about Fudge.
And now I want fudge. I would also like to have some fudge.
I don't enjoy fudge, but maybe I haven't had the right fudge.
You need
perhaps
fudge.
There you go. You know, one of the things about fudge is everyone just thinks about plain chocolate fudge, and there's a lovely variety amongst them.
I don't know if I want anything interrupting the chocolate.
But I mean, if you're not enjoying the chocolate fudge, and you're saying you're not enjoying the chocolate fudge, have you ever had a nice cookies and cream fudge? Oh, yes, I know. But it's imagine they somehow made the Oreo inside out and gave you a block of it.
No, because I don't like Oreo filling.
Oh, well, then maybe, yeah. No, maybe this is just not for you.
Yeah.
It's possible. But I would encourage you, if you've only had the chocolate fudge, to find a good place that really does a nice homemade fudge, make a little trip of it and do a little sampler platter. Get some, and you can try some of the caramel, and you can try some of the blonde, and you can do a little vanilla fudge. And it's worth giving a try. I think.
I'll be open to fudge. I'll try.
It's not like Midnight Run. I'm not expecting it of you. I'm saying if you had the opportunity, I think perhaps there might be a fudge that gives you joy.
Okay.
Midnight Run, I knew would give you joy.
I trusted that, but I'll trust you on fudge. I'll trust you on fudge.
Okay. All right. Do we have anything to plug before we have to leave this week, kids?
Nothing for me.
All right. Tookie?
I am somewhere this week. I'm at the Green Room in Somerville on Saturday. Yeah.
Very nice. Very nice. I am nowhere. I am still. I'm officially on sabbatical and figuring out my future. So I am nowhere. It was funny. Actually, the gentleman Ben who runs the Green Room was asking me about this Saturday, and I just kind of politely said I can't, because I still don't want to say I'm just not anymore. But yeah, for the moment, I'm I can't. Thank you. Yeah. Anyway, all right. It's another season in the books. Thank you, season 4. That was quite a season. And we are going to come back next week with the season premiere of season 5, the final Shelley. It's monumental. All right. Take care of yourselves, everybody. We'll miss you until then. I'm Mike. That's Dave. That's Tookie. Take care of yourselves. Stay safe. Bye.